walking. So old school, right? It's like if you want to go across the office or down the street or to the other side of the building, you have to use your feet. Like it's the Middle Ages. It's who has the time? You know what I mean? Well, I have a better way. They're hoverboards. They're those two-wheeled, self-balancing scooters, and they are all the rage. From The Verge and Vox Media, this is Version History, a show about the best and worst and strangest and most important products in the history of technology. I'm David Pierce, and today we are going for a ride. A definitely dangerous and potentially explosive ride. Stay tuned. All right, we're back. Let's talk hoverboards. Andy Hawkins is here. Hi, Andy.
Hello.
Sean O'Kane is here.
Yeah. The band is back together.
This is exciting.
This is very exciting. First, let's just talk about relative hoverboard expertise. Andy, you have a confession to make, I believe, is how we should start.
This is very shameful for me to admit, but I have never actually ridden on a hoverboard.
At some point, that's a choice you made.
It was, because we had one in the office. Yeah. It was always there. Other coworkers were blasting around. I was writing about it very frequently, and yet I still have not put my dainty little feet on the platform. So,
any regrets?
None
it's
at
too
all.
Late now, for sure.
Zero regrets about that. I actually feel better about it today. Every day that goes by, I feel even better about the decision.
Think of how much more complicated your commute to bring your kids to school could have been if you had stuck with the hoverboard.
That's right.
My first ever hoverboard experience, I will never forget this moment. I got it on Amazon, took it out of the box, and I was in Oakland in my apartment, and I was like, okay, my living room is tiny. It was in like an 800 square foot apartment. I was like, I don't have any room to ride this thing. I'm going to take it down to the street.
First mistake.
I was
right
like
there.
very early in the hoverboard world at this point. So I was like, I didn't know how any of this worked. So I take it down to the sidewalk. I went, I don't know, 18 inches into like the line between two of the blocks on the sidewalk and just absolutely launched myself into traffic. Like in the middle of the road. 8 seconds after getting on a hoverboard. And then I was like, all right, I'm in it now.
So we're very lucky to still have you here with us.
It's a small miracle. Sean, what about you?
Have ridden, have not stuck with it.
Okay.
Expertise would be a word I wouldn't use.
Like, would peak Sean on a hoverboard, would you roll around this set?
Oh, no.
And feel comfortable not destroying things?
Without breaking all of the cameras? No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Give me a wide open space, put me on an airport runway.
Oh, yeah.
I could probably cruise.
A gymnasium?
A recently paved airport runway. I could probably cruise pretty well.
Okay. That counts for something.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is I'm the best at hoverboards. This is a great way to start. But we all covered this pretty aggressively. I was at Wired at the time. You two were both at The Verge during like the entirety of the hoverboard craze. Mm-hmm. You were both like covering it a lot, is my memory of it, right? Like it was a huge story in a way that is, I think, very easy to forget now.
There are so many parts to the story that I hadn't remembered until I was looking back. Like, it's not just about the product. It was about what we called it. It was about who was riding it. It was about this celebrity craze of all of them probably getting paid to ride them or just like thinking they were cool. And there were all the, it was just, there was... to me, it's also like a harbinger of what was to come with sort of the trade war stuff that we've been in over the last couple of years of sort of rapid production and domestic manufacturing in China. And it was a deeper story than I remembered.
All the safety implications. That was sort of where I came into the story, was once like they started exploding and catching on fire was when I was like, oh, this is, more than just your average like cheap product out of China that people are really into. There's something else going on here.
Yeah, I think this was also, I had forgotten, kind of the beginning of the like last mile craze, where everyone was obsessed with this idea that what we're going to do is not just have hoverboards, but we're going to reinvent the way that you move small distances, which seems insane to think about now. But I was all in on this idea at the time. And there were we were doing weird electric skates. There were a bunch of different skateboard ideas. You ended up covering boosted board for forever after this. All of that, maybe not starts with this, but kind of starts with this. This was like the beginning of the idea of what weird stuff can I put under my feet that are going to make it fun to move around the office, warehouse, neighborhood, what have you. And it's weird times.
Yeah.
I still have a bunch of those things at my house.
It was a more optimistic time, right? We were watching Google's little sort of cutesy autonomous vehicle for the first time, navigate some streets. We were thinking about electric aircraft and all this stuff. Everything was in the concept phase. And so these became sort of the first tangible things of like, this is what the future will be like, and as far as how you're going to move around. And I think that was one of the reasons that fueled all that stuff. And it was also, honestly, I think there's an element of the Tesla piece here where there was all this talk at the time about the rapid acceleration of development of electric motors, of battery technology, the miniaturization of that, the lowering of the cost. It's going to revolutionize the kinds of things you can build because they're no longer cost prohibitive. And so it was just all of that stuff got swept up into what became this weird thing, this weird thing that we called the hoverboard.
I think there's also sort of like there's a germ of like influencer culture that like kind of birthed out of this as well. Like we didn't really have like there wasn't like a professional influencer.
This thing would have done numbers on TikTok Shop.
Seriously.
And like it was like we needed to have the celebrities be the ones to like introduce us to this weird gadget, right? As opposed to just like all of the eventually what became like influencers as we know them today. So I always thought that was really interesting.
Totally. Okay, so this was a weird one because most of the things we talk about on the show sort of start in one obvious place. Hoverboards very much do not. Let me just sort of lay out the like two parallel histories here, and we can sort of talk through it. So on one parallel history, we have this guy named Shane Chen, who is an inventor, lives in the Pacific Northwest, has been into like rideable things for forever. And in 2013, he files a patent for a thing called the Hovertrax with an X at the end, so you know it's cool. And he called it a two-wheel self-balancing vehicle made with independently movable foot placement sections. And like the thing that made it new and not a Segway was that it had essentially two distinct platforms, both attached to a wheel, and you could move them independently, right? And so the whole thing was like you push them forward and it goes forward, you push them backwards and it goes backwards, you push one and pull one and it turns. And so that was like his big technical change. He set up a Kickstarter for this thing. He has said since that he had this idea in 2011, patents it in 2013, does the Kickstarter in 2013, raises like a little over $80,000 from, I think it was 162 backers on Kickstarter, which is fine.
Numbers.
Congratulations. Yeah, he did it. It hit its goal.
So you getting in on the ground floor on hoverboards, like you're living that billionaire lifestyle these days. That's what you want to be. You want to be one of those original seed investors.
Well, our boy Shane Chen might have different feelings than that. But let me this is the most like 2013 Kickstarter video ever. So let me just play you a short clip from the Kickstarter.
This is my latest invention. It's called Hovertrax. Because it has two wheels, so you can stand still. And you put your feet on here, you lean forward, you move forward, lean back, you come back. And you press 1 foot forward and 1 foot back, you spin. Or you can make turn when you're moving forward. And this is very convenient and very portable.
I love this because he's like, this is the most like I invented a thing and I have no idea what it's for video of all time.
Yes.
Do you want to back this on Kickstarter?
Take all my money, please.
Yeah, exactly. So all of this is happening. Patents it, starts to ship it out. There were some delays because of port shenanigans, but like shipped a bunch of things to actual people in the world and in America. That's one version of the history. The other version of the history starts in China with this company called Chic Robotics, which is one of the like big factories in China, have a lot of like little tiny house brands. So there's like 1 million companies inside of this one factory. Chic Robotics is one of them. They start making what they call self-balancing scooters that look a lot like our buddy Shane's Hovertrax in August of 2014. And these, I did a story about these 1 million years ago in which I went back and looked through, went back when this is a thing you could do, every YouTube video that had ever been posted about these things, all the way back to the beginning. And the very first one I ever found was from August 2014 of a device called the Smart S1 from Chic Robotics. So Chic Robotics makes this device. They take it to the largest trade show in China. It's a big hit. One of the stories of these things kind of over and over is that one of the ways they grow is by like taking a bunch to a convention center somewhere and then just like have people ride them around.
Sure.
And they become this like weird viral phenomenon over and over. I think we all had this experience at CES one year.
It was just one of those things where they just showed up, and it was, that was, I think CES is its most fun is when there are people who are sort of at the edges and aren't part of the whole machine of sort of setting up a schedule and like getting people to meet, and they just have a fun idea and they're like, and this thing, to your point about it catching people's eye in spaces like that, there's something so unsettling about seeing the top half of a person moving without bobbing up and down. And I think that, like, honestly, I think that's a small part, but an important part of like why this thing caught so many people's eyes, because if you see someone moving like that, you're like, what is going on?
Right. Well, and it's like a few inches off the ground. So you're the tallest person in the room all of a sudden, and you're just kind of slowly moving towards everyone. Like it is deeply like alarming.
You're like on a dolly almost.
Yeah, exactly. So Chic makes this thing, and their version of this story is relatively straightforward. Like Chic makes a thing, finds a bunch of distributors. Those distributors put logos and stickers on it, and they change the manufacturing a little bit, and they start to ship it all over the world. Those are the two versions of the story. Mm-hmm. Shane Chen, who we should point out was out doing this earlier publicly, what he says is that what Chic did was basically look at his Kickstarter page, take the photos and the video, and reverse engineer their product out of it. This is a thing that is very hard to know. Mm-hmm. It has been litigated endlessly, which will come up over and over again throughout this story. But it tracks. Like that, the place that I've landed is like the thing that we have in the United States looks more like that one from Chic than it does the Hovertrax that Shane Chen made the year before. And then whatever happened, everybody else ripped off their intellectual property, right? So as soon as even this stuff comes out, and as soon as these things start to get manufactured, they are just immediately everywhere. And so like when they first came to the US, which was pretty quick, they came, my recollection at least, is not sort of as there was not one product that showed up and then a bunch of knockoffs. It was all knockoffs from day one. Yeah. Which was just weird.
And they all had the weirdest names. It was always like some sort of like bizarre combination of English words that didn't really seem like they made sense together, like car, wind, wheels.
Another sort of harbinger of what was to come. I feel like this is a proto version of like the alphabet soup, like Amazon mess that we have today of like, I'm going to buy an electric toothbrush. This one that's called X9Z2B free looks good.
I will say, to the Hoverboards' credit, one of them was called Funky Duck with a PH, and that's very good. So we made a clip of some of our favorite hoverboard brand names. Let me just play this for you.
This is a Swagway.
This is a Funky Duck.
This is Hovertrax.
This is the Epigo Classic.
This is the Mono Rover 2.
The Carl Lifestyle.
Hawk. The Hoverboard 360.
This particular model is called the Lee Ray self-balancing scooter. They also call it the Dream Walker.
Dream Walker. That's ominous.
I will say my favorite version. My favorite version of this story is, I believe it was Funky Duck sent one of their scooters to Soulja Boy, which is a very 2015 sentence to say out loud. and then like days later, Soulja Boy starts selling a board. I believe it's called the Soulja board.
Yeah. Because why not?
Literally, and the picture is just him standing on the board that Funky Duck sent him. Yeah. Which is this is just where we were at the time. I love it.
It was, a Cambrian explosion of the same thing.
The thing that always amazed me is that none of these things looked any different from the next one. They all looked almost identical. Yeah. Like you line them all up together, and you would have a difficulty like applying brand names to any of them because they just all looked the same.
And what was funny is every one of the companies would hate that characterization, right? Mm-hmm. Because they were all like, oh, well, we have big plans for the second one. Like, get ready
as soon as we know what that is and where we're going to get the idea from. We're going to
do all kinds of stuff on Funky Duck too. Like, you're not even going to believe it. But then they would all say, everybody else is using shoddy batteries and they're not doing any safety testing and they don't care about, but we are the ones doing a good job. And I mean, down that line of what you're describing, every single one of them would have said that to you, which is just delightful. But anyway, so these companies start suing each other and pointing fingers at each other. You have Funky Duck and Hawk, both of which I guess are distributing Chic Robotics, which may or may not be knocking off the Hovertrax. This is like, I lose my mind trying to explain
Hoverboard
all of
centipede.
the layers of this.
Yeah.
Seriously. And so everybody just starts to fight. But meanwhile, this thing is everywhere. Like my memory of it is essentially overnight. All of a sudden, like this went from being a thing I had never heard of and never cared about to being like front and center in pop culture.
Because this also hit right around the same time, I feel like I'm remembering correctly, that Instagram really became a place for celebrities to post. That wasn't the case for a while. Remember, it was just sort of like, you know, artful pictures and filtered whatever and your friends, because you were coming, well, you weren't coming from Facebook, but, you know, they bought it eventually. But this idea that we were getting a glimpse of the sort of polished version of a celebrity's home life, and all of a sudden into that comes like some of the first product. To your point earlier, just like this was sort of like proto influencer marketing, like celebrity influencer marketing, where they were getting these products and dangling them in front of our face. I remember other ones being like, you know, Lewis Hamilton riding some sort of like electric surfboard. There was a lot of this stuff happening at the time, but this was certainly the most viral.
I went back, I did a really, really unnecessary Instagram deep dive to figure out who was the first celebrity to post a hoverboard. Who do you think it was?
Oh, gosh.
Paul Giamatti. No.
That would be amazing.
I yearn for that content.
In his like full John Adams garb. Love that.
Oh, God, I don't know. That's a good one.
He's very famous. And I love his music unironically.
John Mayer?
Justin Bieber.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Justin Bieber, I think historically speaking, kind of gets a lot of credit for like single-handedly making hoverboards a thing. And the more I research it, the more I think he's right. But here, let me just play you. This is the very first video I could find. This is from May, I believe, 14th of 2015. This is like the celebrity birth of hoverboards. And it's just him spinning around, taking one foot off, which is a fairly advanced maneuver.
I mean, is it him?
Well, look at those pants. Look at those shorts.
And then he falls off.
I'm just saying.
The caption in that video is something like, "I died right after this," which is very good.
Even though we didn't see his face, I know that this was floppy hair era Bieber. It had to have been, right?
Without question.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a truther. I'm not going to lie.
You don't think it was the Biebs?
No.
Biebs' body double did a lot of work in 2015 on a hoverboard.
It was Giamatti.
But I love that clip because, to your point, this was like early Instagram video when like no one would be caught dead making that low quality.
Yeah,
it
wasn't even a good Vine,
anymore.
let alone a good Instagram.
There's no music.
No, it's too long. He spins in a bunch of circles.
He falls.
Nothing funny happened. Yeah. But that was huge. And then it just absolutely took off. So like, here's just a small percentage of the list of people. Wiz Khalifa, Nick Jonas, Zed, Kendall Jenner, J.R. Smith, who, I don't know if you guys remember this, if you're basketball fans, rode one in the tunnel to, I believe, the NBA Finals. And it was like a national news moment. Millions of people watching J.R. Smith just like potentially injure himself all the way to the locker room. Nicki Minaj, Nina Agdal, the model, David Ortiz, Kareem Benzema, the soccer player, Skrillex, who became very well known for his hoverboarding.
2015.
Yeah, that should have been my guess.
And then all of the late night hosts.
Yes.
This was like a staple of late night TV.
All the Jimmys.
Jimmys and Jameses and all of them. And so like this was like a huge thing. And the thing that I had forgotten was how short a period of time that actually was. Yeah. Because this is basically, so like Bieber posts in March, and then we spend kind of May, June, July, August culturally obsessed with hoverboards.
Is this 2016?
2015.
This is literally, this whole story is 1 year long. It's nuts.
I also remember like it was either 2015 or 2016, but like whatever year the holidays came around, it was insane. Yeah. That like every kid was like, I want one of these so bad. Like that's the only thing that I want, mom and dad. And it was like everyone, it was like, you know, rushing to get, you know, wherever you could get one, you know, people fighting over them at Black Friday deals. Like it was.
And there were absolutely no problems with these things sitting under flammable Christmas trees. None at all.
None at all.
What a good segue that is. So all of this happens. And then what do hoverboards start doing? They start exploding, which is where Andy comes into the story. Do you remember any of the like early versions of this story?
I remember being very like panicked like this is a problem. Because yes, they started exploding. They were catching on fire. There was some deaths, I think, associated with it. Like it was bad.
Yeah, and it's useful to remember that these things are huge.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's not like if even your phone battery exploded, because this is just before the Note
Galaxy
7
Note.
Shenanigan. Like,
Yes.
it's really like...
We were actually so prepared for the Note 7 because of hoverboards.
So right.
Yeah.
This is actually, hoverboards were learning moments for me in multiple ways. One was, this is where I first learned what UL certification is.
Yes, same.
Because we spent a lot of time trying to figure out whether or not, post this sort of fire stuff starting, whether or not each individual company had gotten UL certification. Most of them hadn't, and how important that can be. That was just a big one.
Yeah. UL certification is another thing that one of those you're like, why? I wish I had never needed to learn about this, but here we are. I'm glad it exists, and I hope I never think about it again.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a couple of clips I would like to play for you of hoverboard explosions, because what are we here for if not hoverboard explosions?
What's a gawk?
Hoverboards are red hot in more ways than one. There has been another reported fire involving the popular self-balancing scooters.
I came down the sidewalk, not even probably 100 feet, and it exploded. It said, boom.
But how do they explode so well?
Simple. We take a battery from a 90s cell phone and make it power a motor designed for a small car.
Safety officials saying all the hoverboards sold in the U.S. are unsafe.
It is irresponsible for a company to continue to sell hoverboards that they know do not comply with the standard.
And since not a single one has been certified as safe, the Consumer Product Safety Commission warns consumers risk serious injury or death if their self-balancing scooters ignite and burn.
Well, and as soon as that came down, like everywhere started banning them, right?
Yeah.
Like the MTA, all the airlines banned them.
Yeah, Walmart was like pulling them off the shelves.
Pulling them off the shelves. You couldn't go through TSA security with one if you had it. Like it was just sort of like, it was a free-for-all, and then nowhere would allow them to have them anywhere.
Yeah, like almost immediately.
Yeah.
That it fully turned.
Just remember that there were like, you remember at the time, there were all those MTA sort of helpful hint things on the subway with like the sort of simply drawn figure people.
Like the cartoon people.
Yeah, and they had ones for the hoverboards. It was like, don't bring this on board.
I think they're still up there.
Probably in some, yes. And I remember some of them would be animated on some of the video screens, and it would be like, big X over like guy trying to bring a like little simply drawn hoverboard onto the subway.
Like I lived in this city for like 20 years, and I don't think I ever saw anybody. I think I saw some people carrying them, but I've never saw anyone use one on a subway. I'm just wondering like how the physics of that work. If you're going back and the train is going forward, are you just standing still? If you're riding the hoverboard, how does that work?
See, that I would give somebody $1 for that on the subway.
Yeah,
it's like mariachi band, but
that's your
I've seen
showtime.
it before.
That's showtime. Yeah,
absolutely. Especially if you can like spin up through the bars with the hoverboard.
We haven't even talked about the ones that have like built-in speakers and lights.
Yes.
And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
No, this is the right time, because this was like, that was the other thing.
It was time for Funky Duck 2, baby.
There you go.
Well, so at this point, there are basically one of three things is going to happen. Either this whole thing is going to die, it's going to get safer and better, or it's just going to get weirder. And for a minute, it just got weirder. To your point, so people started modding these things. Companies, now that there had been like more time to actually rev the product and ship the stuff, and more people were manufacturing it, there were all these weird new ideas about stuff you could put in it, like speakers, which I remember being just a full nightmare of an idea.
Yet somehow like deeply appropriate. Like this thing is so garish. I mean, it already was essentially like a party speaker on wheels. So like making it a party speaker on wheels was like, that tracks.
Yeah,
that tracks.
Yeah, and I remember seeing like increasingly crazy light shows coming out of the side of them. That lasted for a minute. And then the third thing happened, which is it all fell apart. But we need to take a break really quickly, and then we're going to talk about what actually happened to hoverboards. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. So, end of 2015, it all kind of goes sideways. Everything's exploding.
Like the hoverboard was sideways.
Hoverboard. I fell off the hoverboard metaphorically and literally in 2015. But the big thing, to your point about holidays from before, the big thing that happened was Amazon stopped selling all of the hoverboards, like all at once. And
And we all know that's the only way to buy anything these days.
I mean, kind of. Yeah. But it was really interesting because I went back and was looking, and at the beginning of the story, there was this run of people buying them on Alibaba, and a lot of like drop shipping stuff happening from some of these factories in China. And then all those factories just started selling directly on Amazon. And so that became the place everybody bought hoverboards, like for a long time. And then Amazon just essentially overnight just stopped selling them. And so you just couldn't get them. And this happened like at holiday season. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people had them already, but now they are a safety risk that is being broadcast to everyone as a huge safety risk. You literally can't buy one. And the whole thing just kind of just poof disappears overnight. There are people trying to make that happen either more slowly or reverse it. So Razor, the scooter company, buys that original 2013 patent from Shane Chen in 2015 and decides to simultaneously go make safer, more legit versions of the hoverboard. They start to get the UL certification. Yeah. They start to go like take more care of the batteries and start to actually like build these things in a safe way. And they go just sue the pants off of everybody else who is making hoverboards. Everybody's suing everybody. And then there just becomes this question of like, is any of this different enough to be defensible?
Yeah.
And as far as I can tell, overwhelmingly the answer became somewhere between no and nobody cares. And I think that just seemed to be the end of the story there, is everybody picked these fights forever about these patents and then just kind of decided, it's too much
Our court
work.
system does not move nearly at the speed of sort of viral anything, let alone viral like product. You know, just that was never going to be something they could sort out in time for this thing, for it to matter for this product. And it was just always destined to come out of fashion before a judgment came from some district court judge.
Yeah, true. Well, I found myself wondering, like, I think the thing that there's no coming back from was all the safety stuff, right? Like there was just it got so bad and so publicized that I think even now, I suspect everyone's first association with hoverboards is explosions.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no coming back from that. But I do wonder, because if you rewind to the beginning of 2015, like again, this whole story takes place in 12 months, which is insanity. But if you rewind back to the beginning of it, there was a real sense this thing is huge. Everybody's into it. It's a good idea. It's a fun product. People like it, but there is no brand that's going to work.
Yeah.
And I think it was Joe Bernstein in BuzzFeed that compared it to jet ski, where it's like, there are lots of ways to move around on the water. There's only one jet ski. And if you could have been the one to come in and be like, okay, screw Iohawk, screw Funky Duck, all these dumb brands, we're going to be the one, like the sort of brand name, the Kleenex of the space, that was going to be massively, massively valuable. And it's sort of sad to me that we didn't get to see
it could have happened.
If
they didn't explode and they didn't catch on fire and people hadn't died, we could have gotten to a point where there might have been some sort of incumbent, whether it was, Iohawk or Mark Cuban's thing or whatever it was, that could have emerged eventually had there been more time, I think. But because there was this like hard stop at, explosions, it didn't really get there. And we're still kind of in a place where there's a million different brands and they are still available. And they're a lot safer, obviously, now than they were before. But I feel because there was that disruption in right in midstream as this thing was getting going, it kind of prevented it from happening.
I think that moment too, it was a reset moment because not only was there a safety threat, even people who didn't really care much about that couldn't really buy them as easily all of a sudden. And I think that gave people enough space to realize, like, what really is the utility of this thing? You know, you talked earlier about this idea that was sort of really in vogue at the time of like the last mile thing. You're going to take a train somewhere, but you're going to have that last mile to your destination. Should it be an electric bike, an electric scooter, electric skateboard or something like this? But I think people started to realize in that sort of hangover moment of like, does this really actually work like that? I mean, you can take these things down like a sidewalk, but like if there's a bump, like you're kind of doomed.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it really, you know, we talked earlier about we were joking about like, could we even ride it in this studio space? Like, it really is a thing that only works that well on like the shiny floors of Justin Bieber's mansion or an airport, I guess. But like for real actual transportation, they are not as useful as I think any of those early companies, marketers, whoever would have really wanted people to believe. And there were some attempts at changing that a little bit, but it's tricky when you're dealing with self-balancing stuff, especially. Even if the wheels can handle it, you're going to run into trouble if you're going over sort of uneven surfaces, because it's just naturally going to throw off the inputs that you're giving into it, and it just spirals a bit out of control. And so I think the most competent version of that we've ever seen is eventually the Segway 9-bot one that really it's essentially a shrunk down Segway with no stalk to lean on with your hands. And that is like something that actually probably works in those settings, but is definitely more cumbersome, not as easy to carry around on the subway or wherever like these were.
What is the problem that we're solving with this? Walking?
Yeah.
Like, I think walking's fine. I don't see walking as a problem. You know, I understand that.
Disagree.
But no, I mean, like if that was the problem, because otherwise it was just a novelty, and it was just it became a punchline eventually, where like, you know, characters on TV. If you saw a character on a show or TV on a hoverboard, it was like that person's a clown, right? Like that, you know, it was like John Ralphio from Parks and Rec or something like that. Like, you know, like that. It was meant to send the signal that this is like an unserious person.
Yeah.
And so then I think it quickly sort of became associated with less of the utility and more sort of like the jokey, like,
which is funny because around that same time, the same sort of aspersions were being cast on people who were using the earliest versions of like the electric kick scooters that we see around a lot of major cities.
Yeah.
But that has utility to it. So now people care less, probably still some, but less about how weird they look if it just gets them somewhere and quickly.
Yeah.
And this was never going to solve that problem.
Yeah. I mean, and again, you go back to sort of the world at that time. It's like you were talking about. We were like, okay, robo-taxis are going to take me everywhere. Yeah. The Hyperloop is going to change my life.
God.
Like we were in this phase of it's not going to be that long until you don't own a car anymore.
Right.
It was a thing a lot of people would have you believe at the time.
Yeah.
And in that world, something like this that is like, I just need to quickly get to the coffee shop makes a lot more sense. I own more cars than I did in 2015.
And it's like amazing to me that none of the car companies like try to buy like Hovertrax or like, because that's what they did with the scooter companies, right? They they saw like Ford and others saw an opportunity. They're like, we have to get a piece of this. This is going to be huge.
Yeah.
And I think because there was that disruption sort of like mid-cycle as this thing was just gaining momentum, like escape velocity, it was getting there. Like you could have had like GM swoop in and like buy one of these.
I'm dying thinking about like the 30-page slide deck that someone prepared for Mary Barra at GM of like, here's why we should acquire IOHawk. And then they start exploding and she's like, get out.
The future of transportation is the Hovertrax.
I'm going to invest $1 billion in Cruise instead.
Yeah, you could argue which one of those went better. I'm just saying. So anyway, okay, so the story here basically ends with you can still go to a store and buy a hoverboard, which I will be honest is not a thing I knew until I was researching this story. They're pretty cheap. By all accounts, they're pretty safe.
Yeah.
They're just out there. They're mostly now called Hovertrax. The whole thing is owned by Razer, but I think Shane Chen kind of got his
piece.
He won in the end.
Nice.
He sold the patent. They're still called Hovertrax. They're still out there. I want to talk about two more things before we get to the version history questions. One is during all of this, you, Sean, had an actual experience with an actual hoverboard.
Yes. That's one of the crazy things too. I feel like this was a thing that we set aside because it was such a weird moment. But I think another element of why these things took off was because it was just like hoverboard mania for a few years, because there were all these other companies at the time trying to do. We were coming up on 2015 was what, the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future,
Mm-hmm.
the date in Back to the Future.
Mm-hmm.
So, there were all these people who were like gearing themselves up to be like all retrospective about Back to the Future and the hoverboard and so I think people were just ready for it. And all these other companies, there was this company called Hendo, or Arcs Pax, I think was the one that was actually behind that. And there were all these, they were coming up with weird ways to try to make all air quotes here, make hoverboards that worked. And it was like, they would be, okay, this one hovers with like magnetics over like non-ferrous metal surfaces. Okay, cool. Like, and they remember
they were science projects.
Yeah, exactly.
They were cool. You could just take it anywhere that there are non-ferrous
there was
surfaces.
one for a while. Oh man, the name escapes me, but there was one where it was actually from a space company. I think their name was Arcaspace, and they were trying to do almost like a ducted fan one that had like 40 or 50 or even more like little ducted fans, which looked like a nightmare to ride because like you're basically balancing on like like a small airboat. And so there were all these things. And then the big one that I remember was there was this sort of hoaxy video that Tony Hawk did where it was digitally edited to make it look like he was actually riding a hoverboard and it had been created and here it is. And it was just some viral stunt for something else. And it was like, that was the moment where that was happening like alongside all of this stuff, just sort of fueling the mania. And then the craziest one of all of them was like, all of a sudden we got a call one day from a PR rep who worked for Lexus. And I pick up the phone because I'm one of those crazy people that picks up every phone call that I get, even if it looks like it's going to be spam, because you never know. And they were like, hey, like we're doing this thing in Spain and we want to know if you're interested. And they were describing it, and it was this whole thing about doing a real hoverboard. And we weren't really sure of all the specifics, but it looked like we were looking at some of the stuff that they were showing us, and it was like, this looks like legit. And I remember just like still on the phone, like scouring the office, looking around, like, where is Sam Sheffer? We need to get into Spain. And it was like right around 4th of July too. So I remember it just being like, I'm sorry if I'm blowing up your holiday, but like, you should go to Spain. like, you're welcome.
Yeah, there are worse things to be told over the 4th of July.
And it was like, again, it was another one of these things where it was very science experimental. They basically just built an entire skate park that had magnetic rails underneath most of the park. And it was, it was similar to, if you've ever seen those things where there's like a super cool piece of some material and it kind of like, hovers over a base of some other material. It was essentially that, but they had balanced it out well, and they had worked with some skateboarders, and they went through all the work to make it really work, but within its own limits. And it was, I remember he had so much trouble getting it to work because it's in Spain, it's very hot, it was the summer. The materials they were using had to be cooled to a certain temperature. If it went above it, they had to swap out the board. But, he was able to, even all those constraints, like set those aside, he was able to ride a skateboard on a skate park that hovered. And it was like a really cool moment. Like, we filmed a really good video about it, and it was like such a fun, weird thing. Again, it was just a stunt. But it was like all that was happening at the same time that all this stuff was happening, which was like fueling the mania of this product, but also even just the idea of calling them a hoverboard in the first place.
Yeah, and this one actually hovered. I have a clip of that video, which, if memory serves, was one of The Verge's most successful and viewed videos.
Still to this
ever.
day, I think, almost.
Yeah. Truly wild. Here it is.
It hovers off the ground like a proper hoverboard, but as I'm sure you've guessed, there are some big caveats, like the track it needs to run on, which is crucial to how the thing works at all. The board
it looks cool because it's designed well, but it looks like
nitrogen,
all the liquid nitrogen coming off it just like makes it look even cooler.
The magnetic
nothing about this is real, but it's sick.
Vertically with the center of the board, so it's.
I mean, it looks like it's on the ground.
Tightrope, and if your balance isn't perfectly distributed on this thing, you end up scraping the ground with the undersides of the board. It took me like 15 minutes just to glide a few feet.
Oh yeah, you can kind of see. That's a good angle.
That was where the heat was working against them too, where it was like the hotter it was, the less whatever the force was working. So I remember him telling me that he was struggling with that part of it, and it took them a minute to really get one with just the right amount of like the liquid nitrogen or whatever it was to get it to hover enough for him to really try and ride it.
I rode one of the ones on the metal surface.
Oh yeah,
at a Hyperloop event,
sure,
as it were,
in
Texas. SpaceX had this big Hyperloop competition at Texas A&M University, and like one of the vendors that was there showing off like their products was one of the, I forget which one it was.
I think it was the Hendo one.
It might have been the Hendo one, but I remember the funny thing about that was they made you hold hands with somebody while you were on it. So I'm like, this is the most like nursery school demo I've ever done in my entire life. I'm holding hands with this man as I ride on a.
I like that rode a hoverboard, but you've never ridden a hoverboard.
The hoverboard, yes, I know. That's one of the weird things about me.
I also like that. That's like what the future of the Hyperloop should have been.
Yes.
Like just put up rails and let us all hoverboard from San Francisco to LA while holding
Well, they're all about magnetic levitation
right.
at Hyperloop Inc.
That's exactly right. So, okay, and then the last thing we have to talk about, which is the only thing that matters in this entire thing. All of this has been a waste except for one important question, which is why the hell are these things called hoverboards? They don't hover.
Yeah, fair. Point taken.
But they are hoverboards, and they just are hoverboards.
There was never any other good name to call them. You know, like we ran through a few of them already, like self-balancing scooter, you know, just nothing that like really rolls off the tongue. And then, you know, I where that comes from, I don't even really remember. Again, there was this sort of cultural thing happening, like I said, at the same time where hoverboards were in our mind in a way that they hadn't been in years prior. And so, you know, I think it became a good shorthand for it. And so, again, like like I said earlier, if you're not looking at what somebody's doing and you're just seeing their like torso and head coming at you, it looks like you're hovering. Like it looks like you are floating at me as a specter about to like, you know, it's just, yeah, I get it.
So I want to see if we can rename this thing very quickly. Knowing what we know now, is there a better name for this thing?
I mean, I kind of agree with Sean that you can't really beat hoverboard in terms of like the cultural connotations that it has.
Rollyboard.
Rollyboard.
No bad ideas. Go.
Glide ride.
Can we just call it a scooter?
Spin doctor.
Yeah, there you go.
Glide ride is actually very good. It's nothing, but it's very good.
It's nothing. Spin doctor's good. I like Spin Doctor.
I could see somebody selling it as the Spin Doctor.
Yeah.
But the company is called something
brand
else.
name.
Yeah.
For sure.
Tilt-O-Whirl.
This is all making me like hoverboard more.
Ass blaster. Because you fall in your ass.
Zoom scooter. Foot. There's probably something with foot, right?
Yeah. Foot.
Foot wheel.
Footmobile.
That's going to get a whole other demographic interested in it.
Hey, listen.
The foot demographic.
All right, fine. It's hoverboards. This sucks. This didn't go at all how I was hoping it was going to.
They're called Icarus wings. Unironically. Touch the sun.
I stand by Glide Ride. I feel good about that.
Glide Ride's pretty good. Glide Ride is like, I think we just came up with a bunch of good company names. Like when we're going to bring the hoverboard back, we're going to call it the Glide
Ride. Here's the thing. I mean, you noted that the hoverboard's still around. I was at my children's talent show earlier this year, and amidst all of the terrible renditions of Frozen songs and Pink Pony Club and all the other things that were going on, 2 kids came out on hoverboards and did a hoverboard dance to some song I'd never heard before. I think it was like a Minecraft song.
This was recently?
Like that. This was like a couple months ago, and they were wearing like glittery spandex like outfits, and they killed it. Shout out to Nico and Brooks. Those kids,
we're sure you're listening,
were amazing. And it gave me some solace because this is not Gen Z or millennials or anyone. This is like Gen Alpha, right? These are the kids are into them. They're still into them.
Have we come all the way back around so that they're vintage? It's like 80s glam
millennial
outfits and
cringe.
hoverboards.
Millennial cringe is back, right? It's
well, we're all 1,000 years old is the main takeaway from this episode of Version History. All right, one coda to this story before we get to the Version History questions. Can I share with you what our good friend Shane Chen has been working on recently?
Oh, please.
Yes.
I have a clip that I would very much like to share with you. So this is a product. It is simply called Shane.
Shane, a revolutionary new car, embraces the laws of physics in an unexpected and inventive way.
Yes.
Large parallel wheels automatically shift relative to the car's body to keep Shane in perfect balance during acceleration and braking, making it stable and safe even at high speeds, a capability not previously possible. Suspended motors and regenerative shocks are housed in the wheels. Maneuverability and parking are easy, thanks to 2-wheel differential speed control, which eliminates the complicated steering system of today's cars. Pure electronic steering makes it a better self-driving car. Shane is practical and efficient for everyday urban and highway driving.
The only way I can describe this to you is as hoverboard, but spaceship.
It's like a frog car.
Yeah.
A better self-driving car.
Why is there so much parking in the desert?
Yeah. My question is like, well, one of my questions is this something he's been like building towards, or is it a new idea? Like, is the dream to always make a car with two wheels named after himself?
I mean, I do sort of like the idea that you can go all the way back to all of his inventions, and they just get bigger and more expensive, and then they end up being a spaceship on self-balancing wheels.
Like, are we going to get an SUV version of this at some point?
The 3-row Shane.
I do like that he was like, 2 wheels. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
That's all we need for everything in our lives is just 2 wheels. This 4-wheel stuff, that's bullshit. We need to just narrow it down to 2.
Did you see how easy it was to park? I mean, come on. That's the dream. All right, Shane, I'm glad you did it. Congratulations.
The dream is alive.
You won.
Can you send me the
Shane.
Kickstarter link? I want to back that.
I think so. Yeah, we'll do that with this episode. All right, we need to take one more break, and then we're going to come back and do the version history questions. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. It's time, as always, for the 8 questions we ask about every product we cover on this show. Question number 1, weirdly tricky in this case. What was the best thing about hoverboards? Sean,
man.
you go first.
I like the content, like, just like all the celebrity BS and like, people, unboxing videos at Christmas. I feel like there was just such a moment that we've talked about of like this becoming like something you could read about or watch for days on end, and that it got to like local news. You got local news penetration where you're just like, someone in like Peoria, Illinois' local station talking about hoverboards. It was just.
I do think hoverboards probably got to like 100% brand awareness at some point. It's like Coca-Cola, iPhones, hoverboards. Like it was right up there for a while.
Yeah,
not for good reasons, but it was there. That's a good answer. I like that. Andy, what do you think?
I think it's like how they didn't overstay their welcome. For not by choice, like they flamed out literally, but I feel like they didn't stick around, and like we didn't have to go through like multiple cycles of the boom and bust of it all. They just came, they made sort of made their case for themselves, and then they started exploding, and then that was the end of it. And yeah, they're still around, and but they're not as big as they were. I think that's more products should be like sort of like the original Office, where you just like 3 seasons and you're done, and that's it. Like end on a high note.
High-ish. It ended on a note.
End on a note.
I'm not defending this take at all. It's just a take.
It's a good take. I like it. I think for me, the underrated thing about these things is I think they got the size of the thing kind of right. Mm-hmm. Like one of my problem with all of these like last mile things, we've the electric bikes, the electric scooters, all these stuff, they're just enormous. And they're like, I had one of the 9-bot scooters for a while, and the thing weighed like 45 pounds, like 3 feet long, really annoying to carry around. And there was something about like you could just kind of pick up a hoverboard and carry it with you, and it was too heavy in a way that I actually think like the year 3 of hoverboards, they would have figured out how to make it lighter, and it would have been more compelling for it. But like there was something about just the basic shape of the thing that I was like, all right, if we're going to do the last mile thing, this is about the shape of it that feels right to me. All right, question number 2 is going to be much easier because the answer is explosions. What was the worst thing about hoverboards?
The content. This was sort of more of the Wild West days of like influencer marketing, and we didn't really know. Kendall Jenner wasn't posting #ad under her posts yet, like that kind of stuff. And it was like there was more than just the hoverboards or all these like electric surfboards and stuff. And it was such a weird time of like, how much of the truth are you telling us here? and like I just, that part of it always felt really weird to me.
Okay, if I give you 51% of the celebrity hoverboard content was bought and paid for in some way, are you going over or under?
Over.
You think?
Yeah. I mean,
that's so sad.
Even if I say over, but like with the caveat of like including, there were probably instances where people were getting them for free, but they were probably expecting something in return at some point,
like Justin Bieber probably did not buy his IOHawk on Amazon.
Yeah, definitely not. So I would definitely over.
Yeah, I don't know if they were cashing big checks, from any of these companies necessarily, but yeah, they definitely were. There was something going on.
Yeah. What about you? What was the worst?
I mean, aside from the human toll and the destroyed property and, all of that, I don't know, probably the name, I guess. It's like, because we did have hoverboards, and then this sort of supplanted that. And now we can't talk about the concept of hoverboards without thinking of these things first. As opposed to the much cooler.
And even your children's, that whole era is tainted now too.
They'll grow up in a world never knowing the joys of Back to the Future.
Yeah, they're going to watch Back to the Future too and be like, that's not a hoverboard, and you're just going to die inside.
Exactly.
Just right there in front of them.
That will be the day that I turn into the guy from the end of Last Crusade.
So Andy's answer is the intergenerational trauma.
Yes.
That's good. All right, well, it's the explosions. You're both wrong. Question number 3. Would it have been a bigger hit if Apple had made it? Could Apple have made hoverboards work?
Apple would have done a secret Project Titan-like project to develop their own hoverboard for 15 years and then abandon it after spending $8 billion. And decided
would you be surprised if you learned that there was a hoverboard just embedded into the trunk of the Apple car?
No.
The timing
there was like
kind
a
of works.
Space specifically where you plug it in.
I'm sure there was a meeting
The question
about
is, could Apple have made it successful?
Yeah.
Oh, man. No.
Okay.
Because Johnny Ive would have made it like a single plank of wood. And it wouldn't have worked,
And it would have come preloaded with just U2.
Yeah, it would be blasting out the party speakers on the side. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I think I'm also saying no. I think there's it would have been safer if Apple had made it. I have a lot of faith in Apple's ability to make batteries that don't
safer
explode.
on the battery side, maybe not on the riding side.
Well, right.
And industrial design probably better, but still, I think
it would have been white and
depending on if it would have been
did it. It would have been like $5,000, and it would have not sold. Like the Vision Pro of
for your feet
hoverboards.
Here's the tagline.
Not what we're about, I don't think. Question number 4: if you could go back and make it yourself, what would you do differently? You're going back. The 3 of us just became hoverboard distributors. It's April of 2015.
I would put a stock on it and I would call it a Segway. I don't know what I would have done differently. I think maybe I would have started with the party speaker angle. Like that would have been like the first thing. Like this, it's not alone. It's not enough. It needs to be like more than what it is.
I would have tried to make it like rugged and sporty in some way.
Yeah.
Because like you mentioned, they started doing the ones with like the bigger wheels, a little easier to maneuver. I think especially at the beginning, you never experienced this because you're a coward and never tried it. But most people had a bad first experience on a hoverboard. Of
course.
And the question was if you were willing to try it like 3 or 4 or 5 times to kind of get the hang of it. But there's researching this episode, I saw the same clip so many times of the people who stand on the thing and then their legs start wobbling.
Yep.
Because it takes a minute for your brain to realize, okay, I actually don't move my legs. The whole point of this is that I don't move my legs. It's all it's an upper body thing most of the time. But they get on and you just sort of wobble back and forth and then fall off and hurt yourself spectacularly. But they had started to do things with bigger, wider wheels, slightly more sort of stable things and try to make it more outdoorsy.
Yeah.
And I just would have gone straight to that. Be like, this is not a commuter tool. This is purely fun to do.
Like shocks, like having some sort of shocks on it to just absorb the bumps.
What if it could go on the sidewalk and not try to throw you off every time? I would have just started there.
I would have probably given it more than 2 wheels. And maybe take out the motors.
Shane
right
now Shane is crying. He's hearing about
I was
this.
imagining 3 wheels and it's like a triangle that you stand on.
Now we're talking. I like this. Or
we call it the pyramid. And it just takes you along everywhere you're going.
Or you know what? 8 wheels.
Whoa, fuck it.
Fuck it, we're doing 8 wheels.
Are we going longer or just more wheels?
No, I think, like in octagonal shape.
Okay.
And you can go omnidirectional.
So like a stop sign with wheels.
Platform, yes, like a
Class 8.
Like a true
hoverboard.
Platform that you're on. And, instead of just leaning forward or backward, you can kind of go
Did you have those things in elementary school?
That's what I'm thinking of.
They had the wheels and you would sit on them and hold the handles and launch yourself around the gym.
Yeah.
You're talking about one of those.
Kind
but
of,
you stand on it.
But double the wheels.
Yeah.
And you stand on it.
That's the best idea I've heard all day. I love it. I'm in. We fixed it. Guys. Great job, us. Mark Cuban, get at us. What thing about hoverboards, the experience of riding them or the things themselves, would you still want to have today? What last miley gadget would you make out of a hoverboard?
Oh, I see.
I mean, I rode a lot of electric skateboards, and I mean, honestly, a lot of those were trash too, but the boosted board was really good. There was this thing called Z-board for a while. Z-board was really good. And that one actually is maybe the closest analog to this, because the Z-board, unlike boosted and a lot of the other ones, didn't use a remote. It had foot pressure pads on the front and back of the skateboard.
I don't think I ever tried that one.
I mean, the first version of it was very heavy. I don't know that I ever actually rode the second one outside of maybe a quick demo at CES, but the first one I had for a while I lived in Queens and like rode it around. That was great. I actually really loved that.
Was it
like
self-balancing?
It wasn't balanced. I mean, it was just a skateboard. It was like a pretty heavy, like big wood deck, like longboard with the motors and stuff underneath. But you would speed up and slow down by applying pressure to the pads on either side. And it was the closest that form factor ever got to something like this.
That's cool. That's what I was going to say too. Is I don't know about the self-balancing, but the sort of lean to go and lean back to stop thing, I actually think is pretty intuitive.
It was really fun,
and works pretty well.
I mean, I think that's key, like essential to like the delight of the product, why so many people were attracted to it, because they felt like they were doing something, right? Like that, like the machine was kind of doing it for them, but they were like balancing on this in like a way that like was unexpected.
And that's so much about that sort of simple movement of your body that I think is very cool. All right. Question number 6. Is there an alternate timeline in which this thing was more or even more successful?
I mean, yeah, if they didn't explode, I think they would have probably continued. I think they would have like petered out and like leveled out at a certain point. But yeah, I think minus the explosions, you could very well see like a lot of, even more mainstream adoption around.
Do we think there's any world in which they get up to like electric bike level?
Speed?
No, like penetration.
Adoption?
Yeah, like
I mean, I would argue that hoverboards had more penetration than e-bikes did in some respects.
10 minutes. Yeah. No, you're right. But I think what I'm thinking of is like there is an age that every kid gets to, right, where they're like, I want a bike.
Yeah.
And I think, is there ever a world in which hoverboards ascend to something like that level?
You'll like this. No, not in the United States. Mm-hmm. Like if this country or any of its cities were really oriented around pedestrians versus cars, then actually I think this thing would have had a pretty good crack at it. But like the infrastructure is just not there. Like I said, it's like a pebble on the sidewalk is just going to throw you off of this thing. And if there were more spaces where you could take these kind of like personal mobility things, then on smoother surfaces to get around an actual city, then maybe there really would be. But that's just not how this country's built.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. That there is, if a lot of, like the alternate timeline would start in like the 1800s in order for this thing to be
or
more
even
successful.
Further, or like Back to the Future, like even further into the future from now, where it's like the sort of, that meme of like, this is the future we could have if only for X, and it's like the glossy city with like all this stuff. Like it would have to be something like that.
Yeah. We're riding through the Hyperloop tubes on our hoverboards.
Our last mile off the Hyperloop tubes to go to work at the AI training facility.
Yes.
If the futures we've lost. All right, question number 7. Could you make hoverboards a thing again now?
I think so, because I think that we are in that era where there's no boundary in terms of how much time has needed to pass before you can feel nostalgic about something.
Yeah.
Like everything has just collapsed, and it's like you can feel nostalgic for 2016. You can feel nostalgic for 2020 if you want to. Like it does feel like people can reach back and take what they want and sort of cherry pick and like cobble together their own kind of like, memories about what the past was and how it was better. So I do think that there could be some, give it to Benson Boone or whomever, and he does a backflip off a piano onto a hoverboard at the Oscars or something like that.
You are making me remember there was a run of hoverboard dance crazes during all of this that was like people doing wild synchronized hoverboard dancing.
Sure.
Yeah.
We could absolutely bring that back.
School at their talent show.
We could absolutely bring that back. I think without a lot of trouble, we could bring that back. We could make that happen again. All we need to do is get one. Like it's probably Benson Boone now.
Yeah.
But if we call Taylor Swift on a hoverboard, like it's done.
I say we call Soulja Boy. I'm sure he's still got some stock
now.
He's got some stock back in a warehouse somewhere.
Oh yes, he's got a closet full, just stacked to the ceiling.
Nothing but
unopened
Soulja
boxes.
boards.
Yes.
That's what we should call him. Is just Soldier Boy nailed it out the gate.
Yes,
he did.
Soldier Board.
Yeah.
And he would easily get into business with us on this, I'm sure.
Oh.
So that's great. Okay, we're good.
All right, new revenue
stream. We made a lot of money
for
in
the
this
Verge.
episode. This is great news. Last question. Do hoverboards belong in the Version History Hall of Fame? The rules for the Hall of Fame are nebulous and vibesy, as all Hall of Fames are. But I think the rubric, to the extent that it exists, is just, did this thing matter? Like in the annals of technology history, were the hoverboards sort of capital I important enough to belong in the Hall of Fame?
I do think that there was, there's a universe in which like you didn't have hoverboards, maybe you didn't have e-bikes or e-scooters or e-skateboards and all the other sort of mobility devices that have like been way more successful than the hoverboard ever was. Like you needed to have this kind of like kitschy toy product to come first and also show us, sort of like the capacity that China has in terms of manufacturing products and seizing upon things that have become popular in other countries and just like flooding the zone with this kind of stuff.
So then changing their factories the next week to make like e-cigarettes or whatever. Like,
right, exactly, on a dime.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do feel like that there is like a version, like, like the we needed to have like the boondoggle of the hoverboard in order to get like these much more utilitarian e-mobility devices that are actually last mile devices that are worthwhile and but it's frustrating because we learned nothing from the hoverboard as
Correct.
well, because those products all exploded and flamed out and did horrible things to people. And we didn't learn from the hoverboard that we need to make these things safer and there need to be safety standards around the construction of these batteries, especially. And I wish that we had.
Yeah, part of that explanation makes me think that no, it doesn't belong. It's like saying the pitcher who taught the other pitcher how to be better than him belongs in the Hall of Fame. And it's like, I'm not sure that's right. But I do think everything you just said is true. And also it was such a moment and it burned so bright. Like that was the thing that really came back to me in prepping for this. Was it was so huge.
Hillary Clinton was supposed to be the president. Let's just keep that in mind. That year, that's what all of us were thinking as the hoverboard was gaining traction.
Yeah,
we were like, first
real different
president, hoverboard. Nope, that's not the world we live in.
All right, I think we're going to put it in the Hall of Fame just because Shane Chen needs a win. We're doing it for Shane.
You don't want to put the Shane in there?
Well, so here's the question, though, is are we putting the Chic Robotics S1 or are we putting the Hovertrax?
We're putting a vague recreation of a patent application in there.
the cartoon version of a hoverboard goes in the Hall of Fame.
I think so.
All right. I like it. I feel good about it. All right. That is it. That's it for the show. Thank you both for being here. This was very fun. We're going to go ride hoverboards and see who gets injured first. As ever, you can watch all of our episodes on YouTube. You can listen to them wherever you get podcasts. And the best way to support all of this and everything we do is to subscribe to TheVerge.com. That's it. Thank you so much for being here. See you next time.